Adrian Peterson told the Star Tribune that he will break Emmitt Smith's record. So let's take a look at let's take a look at what he said. He was asked, Emmitt had 18,355 yards. You're now 9,506 yards away. We need a week and a year. When do you get there? Peterson responded, man, oh boy, I have to do some calculations. I've been in the league 7 years. I'm already right around 9,000. Calculate it out. Let's think. Maybe get a couple of 2,000-yard seasons. I've got 2017. Well, asked again, what week in 2017? Peterson says, I better go late. I'm already getting too far in front of myself. I'll say week 16. There it is. Week 16 in 2017. Talk about book it with a guarantee.
What?
He booked it with a guarantee.
He picked a week and a year?
At week 16, 2017. Skip, are you surprised that he said it?
Stephen A. I was shocked by this. I was disappointed by this. It made me fear for Adrian Peterson because this was not smart to draw an even bigger target on your very big back. But that's a big target. Now you're talking about breaking the single-season rushing record, and all of a sudden you've leapfrogged all the way to passing Emmitt Smith as the all-time rushing leader. And I want to be clear about this. I like Adrian off the field very much. I have sensed a shift in his psyche since he came off that ACL surgery of a year ago. I sense more mellow. I sense more carefree. It sounded like, in the quote you read, Carrie, he was having a little fun, kind of playing along with the interviewer. I don't think it will read like fun on rival bulletin boards. I'm here to tell you, Stephen A., that Adrian Peterson is not even halfway to Emmitt Smith yet. He's played 6 full seasons. He's 28 years of age, and he is a high collision back coming off that ACL repair. I spent a ton of time around Emmitt Smith. He is the counter opposite back to Adrian Peterson. Emmitt Smith's gift was avoiding contact, as Norv Turner used to call it, quickness in a confined space. Always avoided that emergency room shot, while Adrian Peterson just tends and seems to seek contact. He enjoys running into and over linebackers. Always has, always will. Emmitt Smith went to Arizona for 2 pathetic last seasons, his 14th and 15th seasons, and he basically ran out of bounds for a bad football team and piled up 1,200 more yards onto his total. That's 9,507 yards more than Adrian Peterson has right now. So what good did this do, Stephen A. Smith? This only makes it harder and harder as defenses gear more and more to hit Adrian Peterson, to stop Adrian Peterson. And what good did it do to put this out there right now heading into your 7th season?
Well, I agree with you from the standpoint. I don't think it was very smart of him to say and do, because this is the National Football League. The very elite of football players in the world play in this league. And when they zone in on you, it's unlike anything anybody has seen. Now, I understand why you would have a level of confidence, because you're imagining that Christian Ponder can't get much worse. You were the lone offensive option for this squad. You still went out there and rushed for over 2,000 yards, fresh off of an ACL and MCL injury. You got it done on that level, not to mention the fact that you topped 150 yards 7 times in your final 10 games. So in reality, you look at you look at the enormity of that accomplishment, the obstacles that were placed in your path, and you're saying, well, it only gets easier. I would agree with you, Skip, but I would say to you that I think you're being a bit blasphemous and, dare I say, a bit hypocritical, Skip Bayless. And let me tell you why.
When have I ever been hypocritical?
Yes, okay. And let me tell you why. Because if he were able to do that with all of these obstacles in his path, well, excuse me, if Christian Ponder has gotten as good as you proclaim him to be, shouldn't
I
that
just
be
said he outplayed Aaron Rodgers for a quarter.
I'm just saying.
That's all I know.
Shouldn't it be?
Isn't it
possible? Isn't it possible that he provides more of a presence to sort of take some of the attention away from Adrian Peterson. Now, obviously, from a logical perspective, the better Christian Ponder gets, the more they'll throw the football.
He does have an actual receiver this year.
That's right. Well, I was getting ready to get to that if you stop trying to make my case for me after you spent 5 minutes making your own case.
You're so down on Greg Jennings yesterday.
I was down on his mouth, and I texted him, and we spoke. And
now it's all cool.
Well, I meant what I said. Did you see a retraction?
No, I did not. I just said you criticized
Greg Jennings
him.
knows there's no retraction. Listen, man, there's plenty of my boys that I criticize all the time. He's not sidetracking me.
I got him completely off his track.
You're my boy.
I want to hear about this blasphemy.
You all the time.
What is blasphemy?
What I'm saying to you is this, Skip Bayless is so rude. Okay?
Shrewd.
Here's the deal. Christian Ponder is going to be better. One would logically draw the conclusion that the better he is, the more he'll throw. The more he'll throw, the less Adrian Peterson will have to run. As a result of that, it's not going to happen. You got to remember, before Adrian Peterson broached this subject of becoming the all-time leading rusher, eclipsing Emmitt Smith's 18,355 yards, you have to remember that people were asking Adrian Peterson just days after they got eliminated from the postseason, or actually days after they had lost to the Green Bay Packers at the end of the regular season, before the playoff game. They were asking him, and he had 2,500 yards on his mind. Well, to get 2,500 yards next season, he's going to have to average 156 yards per game. All right? So you're saying to yourself, is this possible? I don't think so. But if he pulls it off, all of a sudden, it doesn't seem as implausible. Now, I don't believe that there's any legitimacy to this. I think the NFL is too physical. He obviously has gotten hurt. He's gotten taken out. I can't stand when football players, particularly those in his position, talk, because really it doesn't have something to do with skills. If you're a basketball player, by and large, you know what, it really has to do with your skill set. They got to deal with you. You're a baseball guy, don't like talking because they could pitch around you. They can intentionally walk you. You know what I mean? They can throw ball. I mean, they can do all of this other stuff. Football, one play can take you out. Chip, knee, ankle, whatever the case may be. That's what I don't like about this. So I agree with you. I'm just saying, keep in mind that you're talking about the elevation of Christian Ponder. And if Christian Ponder, the better he gets, especially with Greg Jennings as a target, the more of a distraction he will be, and the more the distraction the Minnesota Vikings will provide for an Adrian Peterson. I do agree with you. He ain't catching Emmitt Smith in my estimation. All right? It doesn't look that way. But I'm not going to completely and totally rule it out, because AP all day is a bad, bad man, just like Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, I hear you. But in this league, as you suggest, you can't intimidate, you can't bully, you can't call your shots, you can't say, I'm coming for you, defenses, when you have a pretty good offensive line. Emmitt Smith ran behind the greatest offensive line I have ever seen.
No question.
And I covered those teams.
No question. And that's why, by the way, Emmitt Smith gets knocked to some degree for those who question him. Because they're like, who had the luxury of playing behind that kind of offensive line?
Emmitt Smith was the Hank Aaron of running backs. Hank Aaron never hit 50 home runs. Did he hit a whole bunch of front row, first row home runs? He piled them up. He had 8 times 40-plus home runs. That was Emmitt. His biggest season was 1995, that Super Bowl season, the last one, which was 1773. Well, last year, Adrian Peterson had 2097, so he had a bigger season than Emmitt ever had. But Emmitt just kept on keeping on. I watched every, you know, I grew up an Oklahoma fan. I watched every snap Adrian Peterson took at the University of Oklahoma for those 3 years. He was constantly beat up. He had ankles, he had shoulders, he had elbows. He's taken enough abuse already that Emmitt never took at Florida. So what I'm saying is, to last 14 or 15 seasons for Adrian Pitt, that's laughable to me. And God bless him. I hope I'm wrong about this for his sake. But Stephen A., you won't last long enough. The odds are what's the old cliche about running backs? They last 2.5 years in the NFL. I don't know what it is now. But the point is, to even last the 6 years that he has lasted is phenomenal to me. And I talked to him before he got drafted. I said, you got to learn to give it up sometimes. Just get down when you know you can't beat 2 guys near the sideline. Just run out of bounds. It's not in his nature.
The only other thing to that, Skip, last year he told people he was coming.
Yeah.
And they couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting, and I marveled at his performance. As great of a performance as Peyton Manning had last year.
Yeah.
That's why AP was my MVP, because I looked at him and I said, look at what he has to work with and what he's doing week after week. Everybody and their grandmama knew who was going to get the ball, when he was going to get the ball, how he was going to get the ball, and they looked helpless. That's what I'm going by.
Think he can keep that up for 5-6 more years?
No,
boy,
but you know what? If, let's say, for example, Skip, he might not be able to keep it up at that pace. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, and I'm certainly not implying that this is going to happen, but let's say, for the sake of argument, he has a couple, or dare I say a few more 2,000-yard seasons. Then all of a sudden he's within striking distance.
Yeah, well,
and that's what makes the difference.
AD needs about 1,900 yards a season if he wants to break Emmitt's record by 2017.